Davis with a quick talk called How and Why Single Operations Use Closure. So hopefully this goes as we anticipate, and let's get ready and let's go.
Hi everyone, my name is Jake. I'm an ops engineer at Simple. So I'm on the team responsible for building infrastructure for the other engineering teams at Simple. I'm going to be talking about how our ops team is using Closure, not a language that you would typically think of an ops team. And a bit of a misdirection there. This talk is not really about Closure. It's more about sort of how we used it to build these shared experiences and use those shared experiences to bridge this ops and dev gap that can exist even in what we call a DevOps organization. So why did I mention Closure? We have a lot of JVM. This is shared libraries, common patterns, so that other teams are using. So to use a JVM language like Closure is a big opportunity for insight into how other teams work. If I can sort of broadly define the problem, this is the generalization. Other teams need things, the cost of change is high, and insight is low. This is sort of a cross-discipline problem. And so specifically in this context, I'm talking about engineers need platform changes from ops, and platform being the infrastructure that supports our business logic. Config management, it can be kind of slow, it's still kind of young, and so we have this reactive versus preemptive response to needs, and these are all barriers to empathy. So let's fix it. I thought to myself one day, other teams are using the JVM. I went to my manager and I wanted to learn Closure anyway, and he gave me the thumbs up to experiment. So I paired with another engineer on our team in learning it for a few weeks. And this sort of culminated in writing my first service. And I really was able to step outside the ops box here and be a consumer of our own product and work, using our service libraries, our CI system, our infrastructure, et cetera. And this went hand in hand with ops shifting into service writing. So the net realization we had is deploying a service is kind of difficult. And because of this context we had around the platform, the necessary changes became much clearer to us. And this is a two-way street. So one of the awesome things has been watching other engineers like PR back into the infrastructure, like PR the configuration management or what have you. And we're starting conversations earlier about getting feedback on what works, what doesn't work, and where we want to end up. And as a team, where we end up is we're still writing services today, primarily, through this well-defined platform interface that we worked on with engineering. And because we worked on it together, there's this shared ownership of the platform. It's no longer ops's, it's everyone's. So concrete things, documentation, this empowers people, and it allows us to define interfaces which give us inclusivity and anti-complexity. And the shared ownership gives us empathy and inclusivity as well, I'd say. This obviously isn't perfect. We still have a long ways to go, and this is easier with some teams than others. Our clients in particular, we're still trying to figure out how to work more cohesively, and timing of needs can be a challenge. But this is still a big improvement on what we had before, where changes were very difficult, in part because the objectives between teams were very unclear, and the workflow between teams was very unclear. I think we all know these three words: frustration, pain, debt. It's not that we don't have them, but we have much less of it because of this work. We get empathy through engineers eating the same dog food, sharing the pain and the gain of our work together. And it's important to have both, because it should be a fun and positive experience. And having this cross-team collaboration, sort of builds up to inclusivity. So, having conversations about, what do we want to do, and how are we going to develop these shared patterns? Empowering other engineers to participate. Like I said, it's not ops's platform anymore, it's engineering's. And because of these two things, we have less complexity. Sharing a workflow is obviously not having to manage all these different workflows is simpler. Having the easier to understand perspectives means you can understand where people are coming from. So TLDR, we inherited the workflow of other teams. We felt the pain of deploying services, became customers of our own platform, and the result was positive changes that we worked on with all of engineering. So, how to get there? Create the space to experiment. That's how this started. It was an experiment. Ask yourself what tools and languages other teams are using. Step outside your team's point of view and sort of box, I guess, and look at where you can gain perspective across engineering in your team. And so, because the goal is to gain other teams' perspective. And so any team can do this, and if you do, it'll stop being about, I think, ops and devs and all these individual teams, but engineers working together towards this common goal. So thank you. I do have Twitter, and I do have an email address, simple.com/careers. I'm sort of obligated to plug that, of course, and I'll be here willing to talk about any of this stuff. Thank you so much for listening.